Satisfactory is just one of those games that makes you think, how did I get here? Like, sure, you start with a miner, and then it goes into a splitter, and then that goes down a line into another splitter, into a smelter, but that smelter's working at 30 per minute, and outputting 30 per minute, which sounds pretty good, like 1-to-1, but then it goes into another splitter for some reason. Oh no, it's a merger, and then that goes into something else that's doing iron ingots? No, iron plates. And that's 45 per minute, so that means you have to split it again so that your 30 per minute times 2 becomes... Huh? Now this is doubly true because I'm playing on a server with some friends, and some of us are a little more inclined to some tomfoolery than others. So we get some weird lines, like, oh, I don't know. This, you know, whatever this is, and also this, and, you know, all this, and oh my god, oh no, no. So in this world of topsy-turvy, maybe I didn't make that and it looks horrible and it makes me cry, I have these little pockets of joy, mostly because of blueprints. Now if you don't know what blueprints are, you get access to them not in tier 1, 2, 3, but 4. Fix-it blueprints. It allows you to build blueprints and then you can slap them down in your world. And I found this is how I can maintain my sanity, to be honest with you, because I need those pockets of safety. Otherwise, I will go insane. So, I spend some time every day, and it's been, 36 hours so far, just using our blueprint designer. And I've made quite a few blueprints that I'd like to share with you. Some of them are pretty basic, I will admit. But if you're in a big remodel, or you want to get rid of all that junk and all that spaghetti that you've made, these blueprints can really help you kind of streamline the process and just plonk something in that you know is efficient. So let's go over some easy ones, some hard ones, some ones for the early game and mid game, and you know what, I'm not into the late game yet, but I'm sure I'll be able to use these in conjunction with future blueprints to make even crazier systems. Let's first talk about this early game one. This 120 belt split to 15. Now I know it sounds pretty simple, but when you have to do something where more or less you need to split down to 15s, so if you've got iron ingots coming in and you want to make, I think it's iron rods, they take 15 each, this is really useful. Now it's a little close for the assemblers that come out of this, but you can always take these and move them up into the air, every other one can go in the air, and then you've got a 2-story, 8-wide system. Or you can chop off the ends, let's say take everything from here to the right, and, you know, then you've got a 30 system, 30, 30, 30, and 30. And those can go into, well, anything at that point. Now one of the more useful spots that you can do this in is a coal power plant, because each of these uses exactly 15 per minute. So if you can split that into, I don't know, 8 of them, you can make a 600 megawatt power supply system with all these belts. Now this one is before we decided to make a blueprint out of it, and you can see it's a little bit messy down here. But in the new version, all we have to do is run a line into the building, and then in here we have this wonderfully well laid out system. Now of course we do use a bit of clipping here, but you could just break down these walls, and there's your 120 line, splitting into 60s, splitting into 30s, splitting into 15s, and then we have this. You know what? It's actually pretty beautiful. It's a way to push water across all 8 of them in a pretty streamlined fashion. Now then, of course, you put them on a Mark 1 elevator, and then you've got this very quick way to fill in your systems all across all of them. These ones are on the ground, these ones are up in the air, but overall it works as intended. The next pretty interesting design that I've made is a steel foundry that takes in a 135 belt and then goes from there. Now, when you start getting steel, it can be kind of scary because it's the first major thing that you have 2 inputs for that are 2 raw resources, and you know, it's a bit weird to deal with, but this is a very basic setup that we use for basically all of the next set of blueprints that I'll talk about. It takes 2 inputs here and then splits out the lines, and you know, right angles and all that. This one's the only really jank part, but all of it kind of just flows in, and it's got a bit of a collection system on the back, and this will very quickly get you some steel. 45 times 3, so 135 steel per minute, and that's enough to get you kind of started in the journey of steel. Now the good thing about this design itself, once it loads, is that you can always flip out these belts for a faster version. So these level 1 belts become level 2, and then this front one becomes level 3. Once you have that set up, all you have to do is really put 2 of these in here, knock it up to 178%, and then you've got 3 foundries, which doesn't cost too much, feeding into a belt system, and out pops an entire 270 line, 80, 80, and 80. So this is a very compact design. You do need 6 power slugs, or power shards, I guess, but once you have it set up, then you can feed this into anything. In fact, oh, hello. This is exactly what we're using for our steel foundry right now. This is it. We have 2 lines coming in. We've got the coal line and then the iron line. Both 270s, they split into 3, and then those go into these clock-speeded 79.2 per minute steel ingots. But then you can feed it into something like this. This is the same as in the blueprint. Feed it into a really fast line, and then it goes into all of this. 2 of them are steel beams, and 4 of them are steel pipe. And that uses all 270 of it in one go. Now if you're strapped for space, then you can always do it this way instead. This is a 2-story version of the same system, except, you know, it doesn't use power slugs. That's because these each are just running stock, so they take in 45 each. Multiply that by 3 for 135, and then on the top there's an exact copy, and it's just kind of fed like that. These are split in half, so you get 135 on each half, and then it just kind of feeds into here. These 3 then feed into the back, which feeds into another merger, which pulls from the top line, and then it goes into storage. You don't need this storage. It's a little off because, you know, it wouldn't fit in the blueprint, but this is a good way to avoid using those 6 power slugs and keep your costs down. In fact, this is one of my cheapest designs that I've ever made for a steel production facility that is compact and, you know, really reasonable. Also, get these ladders. These are like super useful. They're in the shop, the awesome shop. Use the sink. It's wonderful. Oh yeah, and if you thought that 120 belt split to 15 was kind of silly, I do actually have something here, which is a 270, which, you know, you just flip out the belts, and then you can build a factory like this. Again, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines. So you can feed that system that we showed at the start into this, and this will convert it into iron, copper. It doesn't do caterium, because caterium does 45 per minute, but this is 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30. Like, they're all 30s. So the belt system that I showed off at the start, the 120 belt to 15, just cut off the front of that, and then you've got 30s, 120 belt to 30. And then you can feed it into this, and then you've got like the most space-efficient iron production facility in the world. It's even got this, like, oh yeah, this absolute monstrosity. You have your 270 belt here, and it goes in through here, and it splits, and then you follow this up into here, then the orange line comes around, down, and into this yellow one, and then that yellow goes into the back. And all of this works. All of these belts work. It looks beautiful. But wow, the spaghetti is quite real on this one. You could put it into a 2-story design, but it doesn't really work that well. So following that, let's say you did have something like this. You have a whole bunch of iron production coming out. What do you do with it? Well, typically you'd feed it into an assembler or a constructor, but foundries are a little bit smaller than those, so it doesn't really work. It doesn't fit well into any of this stuff. It doesn't fit into a blueprint very well. You can only fit 3 wide. Or can you? Well, it's a bit of a trick question. You can actually do more if you do the same trick that I was doing on this blueprint. Just offset them a little bit. Need an example? Well, I've got one. Let's say you wanted to make 270 iron rods per minute. Well, there you go. Here's the input. Again, we want to keep most of the design hidden because we don't want people playing around in here. But this is it. This is a 3-story factory that takes 270 in, so that iron ingot factory that I was just showing off would feed directly into this. You can rebuild all those belts back into a single 270 line. Then it splits it into 3 different stories that are all making iron rods. So 15, 15, 15. There's a set of 3 here, staggered in the last one so that you can fit 3 in the space of 2, plus a little bit extra in the back. And you do that, well, 6 times, and then you've got 270, I think. Somebody check the math on that. And of course, you can always check the second floor. It's the same as the first, and the third is the same as the first as well. And once you get to the back of all this, well, all you have to do is pipe it out. There's holes in the back. All you have to do is feed the belts out and figure out what you want to do with it once you're done with this little bit. And that's kind of the goal of all these. We want modular pieces. Ah! And I was kind of thinking about that in my design philosophy. In computer programming, we call it closed box or black box testing, where you just say, here's the input. In this case, we'll just throw an input right here. That's a 270 line going in, and I know that what's going to come out is something out of here. But what goes on inside, we don't really care about. All we have to really do is say, okay, well, it's all hooked up. All we have to do is hook this onto the main line, and there we go. The entire thing is powered on, and you just feed in some stuff. We're not actually going to turn it on now, though, so don't get too excited. Now, this is definitely one of the more ingenious factories that I've made. It uses every single meter that the blueprint designer allows. So I will definitely try and find a way to put these blueprints in the description so that you can just put them into your world and not have to try and fiddle around with this a lot. It was a lot of work. This one was quite difficult. And I think the major thing to keep in mind with all this is that we're not saying no to all this. Well, maybe we are saying no to all this, but this way of like modularizing and preparing your lines to be a little more efficient or at least more understandable, that's a noble goal. Something that you can look forward to and build out and be proud of. All of them, like this one, very clean, except for at the back. We want to make it so that when we build something, it's almost cookie cutter, but in a good way, not like a we built 1,500 houses in 12 days kind of cookie cutter. We want results. We want to know that when we build a coal factory, it's going to be fed into something that uses exactly the amount of coal that we have. And as we progress through the game, we can then use these blueprints to extend and expand on our ideas. So let's say you started with that first one that I showed off. That's only tier 2. You don't need any tier 3 belts to get it started. But once you get tier 3 belts, you stick it on the front, you double it up, and then you're good to go. Oh, this is the worst part of the journey. I hate that so much. I think the best way to explain it really is to go to our second base. We completely forgot about the old base, more or less. We're just going there for parts at this point. We're building things out over here that use those best principles and best practices that we kind of already built out. This, for example, is another design that I made. Actually, no, it is the design I made. But in practice, it actually... I don't know what's happening there. I didn't build this. But it's working. It's taking a 270 in, and it's doing something to make it work. Now, when you get to quartz, it gets a little bit more complicated. That's probably why these lines are so confusing, because raw quartz to quartz crystal takes 37.5, and I bet you this is the silica one. Yeah, silica is 22.5, so you have to kind of pair them up, and that's 60, and then you can work from there. So it gets a little complicated, okay? Anyway, using our blueprints, we can build out bigger systems faster. We don't have to spend, I don't know, an hour or two building out the different parts that we've already built before. So, for example, you've probably seen this before. It's one of the designs I just showed off. It's this color into the orange, into the red, into the foundry, and it outputs a whole bunch, like a lot of iron ingots. Some of which we're not even using yet, I'm pretty sure. It's just going into assemblers and then just sitting there. These are just going into storage and then going somewhere else. But we have used it. We have a use for it. We've built it into our new designs and our new factories, and now we kind of can do whatever we want with it. In fact, we could do something like this. This is Screw Factory. It doesn't sound as cool as it is. Because at some point we said, hey, we want heavy modular frames, which is a pretty far into the game kind of thing. But you need like, I don't know, hundreds of screws. So that's what we did. We took our existing designs, our belt systems and ideas, and here's this is exactly what's in the other spot. It's the whooshy whooshy belts, the spaghetti belts. But it splits it up evenly in 2 different lines, and then we build those into splitters because we need 15 instead of 30, and it has to go to the second floor because it doesn't really work on the first floor because we need so many of these constructors, and they don't fit. They just don't fit. But this just wouldn't be doable. Like, look at how many machines there are. This wouldn't be doable if you just did it by hand. We had a starting point, which was here, and we said, what can we do from here to build out this and make it work? And it does work. It actually works really well. It's currently off. Because we haven't actually finished the assembler part. Down here, all of this is to make these. But then these go down this line and over here into a 4-part constructor, which, you know, it's still got some work to do. We still need steel pipes and encased industrial beams to come up here. But I already know that that same design that I showed off before can make steel pipe. And then it can be fed into here. It can be put onto a line and it goes over here and it slaps in right there. And we'll do the same thing for encased industrial beams. We'll find some concrete, we'll put it in there. Is this just a pile of plastic? This is what I live with. This is why I build out blueprints in my spare time. It's my sanity, I need it. And, I mean, I guess the best way to explain it is through an example. So here's an example of how I've augmented the thing that I just showed you, the iron production. This crazy belt spaghetti is a little bit less complicated for this one, but still very difficult. But I used it as a template and then went from there. So for sandstone, it's a little bit different because they take 45 per assembler to make your concrete. As you can see, 45 to 15. We don't really care about the 15 part, but the 45 kind of messes up the math because they're supposed to be 30 on each. But what if we just got rid of 1, 2, and 3? Then the output lines aren't being divided by 3 anymore, they're being divided by 2. So then you've got a 90 going to a 45, and then you just pump those into here. Now you just have to do a bit of offsetting to get them all kind of lined up properly, and then you've got, well, a lot of concrete. This has been about, I don't know, 5 minutes? 10 minutes? Maybe? And we're already up to that. So, very easy, very quick update to the design, and, you know, we can probably maybe get rid of these now. Well, no, actually, they're still being used for other things. So they're still integral to the design, but we can turn these off. And you know what? We even had these set of smart splitters, so I could have just turned these to none. If you don't know what a smart splitter is yet, don't worry about it. I'm not really using these for their smart capabilities. I'm just using them because I like smart splitters. But hopefully that gives a bit of an example. Actually, you know what? I just built another factory up on the hill. This took about, well, 3 minutes, I think. It took longer to get the coal belt set up. Let me just... Took me longer to belt the resources over to this place than it did to actually build it, because I already had the blueprint already built out. So we've got the coal line coming in here. It just came in from here, which came in from there. Don't worry about that. And then the iron comes straight from this miner right here. Goes in, and then goes out. And it does the thing that I was explaining before. This is the 2-story design, so we've got 45 going into each. No power slugs required. And it all kind of pumps in and then out and then into a really large storage array. Now this is already filling up. I've got it emptying out into these things at double the rate. So there's actually 2 rows here and then 2 rows missing here. So this should fill up in, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes. And it only took 3 minutes to make it. The hardest part was getting the output set up, but it's just a belt coming down and some mergers. So hopefully those 2 examples explain how easy it is to set one of these things up. I could probably redo this if it didn't involve, like, you know, deleting all these belts again. But I could redo this in maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes. Definitely worth the 2 hours I put into the design, I swear. Hopefully this helps with your designs in the future as well. Ow. And gives you a different perspective and, you know what, some resources to build out your designs even better. With these designs you can then make more. Again, it's in the description, hopefully. And you can build out faster, you can build out better. And as you build out to newer milestones, you don't have to think about, oh, maybe I have to spend 3 hours to build a new system. We can just build it. That's what I really want. That's the whole point of this. So hopefully you, somebody who really enjoys Satisfactory, can enjoy it a little bit better instead of spending 3 hours, like I do, building blueprints that don't really do much other than sit there and collect dust. They're not good enough, so you don't use them. Now if you want to see a blueprint or have some sort of design challenge in particular in mind, well, this is the space I have. It's 32 meters by 32 meters by 32 meters. If you think I can fit something like that into here, let me know in the comments, and you know what, I'll get it done. I'll try it out, and we'll see where we can go from there. And if you're lucky enough to play with some friends and enjoy their company, then maybe these can help you keep your sanity a little bit longer. Anyway, outside of that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.